This is James Taylor, and you're listening to The Creative Life. The Creative Life podcast is a show created for you, the creative. If you're looking for inspiration, motivation, and advice while at home, at work, or on your daily commute, then this show is for you. Each episode brings you a successful creative, whether that's a musician, writer, artist, designer, performer, educator, or creative entrepreneur. They share their journey, their successes, their failures, their creative process, their insights, and much, much more. In this episode, I speak with guitarist and composer Andy McKee. We talk about creative retreats, how he's managed to amass 54 million views to his YouTube videos, and finding those artists that inspire you. Enjoy this episode. Hey, it's James Taylor, and I'm excited to bring you our featured guest today, Andy McKee. And Andy is a Kansas-based guitarist, composer, and educator, and amongst the world's finest acoustic guitarists. He first came to prominence via YouTube, and his version of Drifting has had over 54 million views. And he's perhaps best known for his use of alternate tunings, tapping, percussive hits, and two-handed techniques. In 2012, he was asked by Dream Theatre to open their Asian tour before joining Prince's band for a series of shows in Australia. Meanwhile, as an educator, he holds an annual Musicarium guitar camp each year in upstate New York and has been featured in all the major guitar publications. And it's a great pleasure to have you on the show today, Andy.
Thanks, man. Thanks for having me.
So share with our listeners what's going on in your world just now.
I'm touring right at the moment. I'm over here in the United States, down in Florida. Just played a show in Orlando last night, and got another show here in Florida tonight. Then going up through the Carolinas and up to Ohio, and then I'll finally go back home and spend the holidays with family. So things are good.
Nice. And so, how many days out of the year are you finding you're on the road at the moment?
I guess right now it's a little bit less than it used to be. I've got two sons now. I've got a 2-year-old and a 4-year-old. So I try to take little chunks of touring at a time. So I usually go out for about 2 weeks and then go home for usually 2 weeks if I can. But sometimes it ends up being like a day or two, and then I got to head out the door again. But we try to break it up a bit more so I can be home with the family. But I guess it's maybe around 150 days out of the year or so I'm on the road, something like that.
Awesome. And I believe you've just been in London as well. You were recently over in the UK. That's
right. Yeah, I guess it was about 3 or 4 weeks ago. Was over and had a great gig in London. Played a really nice place called the Union Chapel over there. I've played that.
It's a lovely venue.
Yeah, really perfect for this kind of stuff,
Awesome. So share with our listeners, how did you first get started on guitar? And at what point did you say to yourself, okay, this is what I want to do. This is my thing. How did it all get started? And when did it kind of change from being just like, this was just purely a fun thing to actually, this is something that I really want to kind of be doing for my life?
I guess it didn't take too long, really, for me. But I really got interested in music at a young age. I didn't start playing, though, until I was 13 years old, really, around there. I got a guitar for my 13th birthday, and I asked for one because I heard the electric guitarist named Eric Johnson on the radio, and he had this tune called Cliffs of Dover that was on the radio back about 1991, and I was just so amazed with this kind of music where you could hear somebody really expressing themselves through an instrument without singing or any lyrics or anything like that. It was just the music, and I felt just such a connection with his guitar playing and the guitar itself, I guess. The music just resonated with me in a way that was like nothing I'd heard before. So I asked my dad for a guitar, and he went and got me one for my birthday, and so that was how it began. And it was just a nylon string, from the pawn shop, really kind of cheap guitar, just something to get started with. But I played that for a while, and then I got an electric guitar not too long after that. And I just felt, by the time I was 14, after about a year, I felt like this is something I've got to do. Either, maybe I could be on stage playing in front of people someday, or maybe I'll just be a guitar teacher here in Kansas or something. But it just felt like I had to do something with music. And so it only took about a year before I felt convinced, I guess.
And apart from Eric, who were those kind of early inspirations? Who were the guys, especially around, obviously you're known for, certain kind of style of acoustic guitar playing. Who were the people you were listening to around that time?
Well, I guess about 3 years later, when I was 16, I heard a guitarist named Preston Reed. And a cousin who had decided to take me to go see him. Neither of us really knew much about him, but he was playing in Topeka, Kansas, where I'm from, and it's like, we got to check this out, see what it's all about. And so going to see him was another just pivotal moment in my life, and hearing the steel string acoustic guitar played in a way that wasn't like strumming chords in the background, kind of, or just kind of a little bit of a finger picking thing. It was really trying to cover all the aspects of music at once, and having this full sounding solo guitar piece on a steel string acoustic guitar just blew me away. So Preston Reed became an instant big influence, and I went home that night and tried to play like him, but didn't even know he was using altered tuning, so it didn't really work out so well. But before long, I got a instructional video of his and started learning a few things, and I inherited a bunch of guitar magazines from a cousin of mine, and I was going through those and found Michael Hedges, and that was just another pivotal moment again. It seemed like with his music, I really connected with it in a way that just like with no other musician in my life I've had the same sort of connection with. I was just hearing everything that I loved about music in his playing. So he became probably my biggest musical influence would be Michael Hedges, and but a couple other guys I should mention would be Don Ross, a real big influence, and Billy McCall.
And you tour together quite. I assume you and Don tour quite a bit together as well, or used to tour quite a bit together.
Yeah, we have in the past quite a bit. Shortly after kind of the YouTube viral video stuff happened for me, I released a duet album with him, and so we toured a lot in 2008, 2009, and we still get together when we can. We did last year a few shows in Canada, and I taught at his music camp as well. So
it's amazing. I mean, you mentioned some of these names here, like Michael Hedges. And I was talking the other day with Michael Manring. He was on the show, and we were talking about Michael Hedges and the inspiration that he became to so many guitar players. And then there's obviously then yourself. More recently, and in Europe there was guys like Eric Roche, I suppose, who just sadly passed away at a very young age as well. Do you ever feel that you've unleashed on the world this small army of percussive style guitar players? Because it goes away for a bit, and then suddenly someone like yourself will come along, or Eric or something like that, and suddenly there's this, everywhere I go, I just see all these players that are playing in this kind of style.
I guess so, I guess it definitely sort of reignited some interest in the sort of modern approach to acoustic guitar. So, that's pretty wild, I guess. Yeah. Crazy.
It's like the other person I think of, for many years I worked with Tommy Emmanuel, and Tommy's the other guy where because he's such a great artist like yourself as well, and in a great live show, that very quickly you start seeing lots of similar artists to Tommy that kind of try and doing the kind of Tommy thing. And then what's interesting I find is seeing, especially younger players, some of them will be almost duplicates, very similar, and then you start seeing the other ones who they take the technique and they take the learning, but then they kind of put their own twist. They put their own thing on it as well. So you must see like the newer players coming through as well that have kind of taken on from learning from kind of you and the other guys, and have kind of started putting their own kind of twist on it.
Yeah, that's true. And then that's really nice to see. I guess with the way things are now, and with the internet and YouTube and stuff, I guess you can kind of upload. You share videos of yourself playing guitar at any time. So you definitely see a lot of guys learning the techniques and things. And I remember doing that when I was a teenager, and there was some. I feel a little bit grateful because I couldn't just upload videos at the time, because maybe they weren't really up to par yet.
Yeah.
But it's there's definitely guys that are getting into it, and hopefully they can develop their own sound and stuff, because you want to kind of take those inspirations that you get and then make like a soup out of it. It's like you got this and this. These are all the ingredients, and you end up with your own sound. I think that's what any guitar player would tell you that's had any sort of success. Even they took inspiration here and here and here, and they ended up with their own sound.
Yeah.
So if something I've done ends up in somebody's soup, then that's great.
That's great. Yeah, Peppino D'Agostino, he calls it minestrone music. He said, you have your bass, and then you put on your different, paprika or whatever the things are. You kind of give it your own flavor and your own thing. So I know a lot of our listeners are really interested in kind of daily habits and rituals of other successful musicians. So, I mean, what does the first hour of your day look like, and does it change when you're on the road as opposed to being at home?
Oh, yeah, I guess, to be honest, I'm not really the kind of guitar player that practices a lot, which sounds almost like bizarre to say, I guess. I don't know. I just try to come up with new ideas when I pick up the guitar and when I have some inspiration and stuff. So I've never really been real strict about having a real regimented practice, so I mean, when I wake up, it's like, where's coffee? Let's get breakfast. But I don't say, okay, I'm going to take like an hour to practice anything, especially when I'm on the road. It's pretty tough for me. I like to just kind of, go to these new towns and look around a little bit if I can, but usually there's not a whole lot of time for much other than arriving at the town, finding the hotel, go to sound check, do the show, then just repeat for the next 2 weeks or whatever,
Yeah.
But when I'm at home, if I can, I'll try to get some time where I can just start to work on ideas. Occasionally, I'll have my guitar out and come up with an idea, and I'll try to put it on my iPhone or something I can just record a little idea on, and then come back and visit that when I'm at home and I have some time to develop ideas and maybe come up with new parts and things. So, I'm not a real strict practice kind of guy.
And what would you say is your, as a player and a music artist and a creative person, what would you say is your biggest strength?
Gosh, that's tough. I hate talking about myself too much, but what's my greatest strength?
Yeah. Actually, what you think about it? Funny enough, I had a similar conversation the other day. Actually, probably maybe a year ago, with another gentleman from Kansas called Rolf Potts. I don't know if you know of Rolf Potts. Rolf is a New York Times best-selling writer. He wrote a book called Vagabonding, which is great if our listeners just now, if you're into travel and the art of travel and perpetual travel, and now we have things like digital nomads, and we have all kinds of people that can live life on the road, like a lot of musicians live as well. And he was, maybe it's a Kansas thing, because when I asked him that same question, he was very, very modest. he was more to talk about the weaknesses than the strengths.
Yeah. Gosh. I don't know, man. I think sometimes I've it's not. I've written some tunes, I think, where there've been really good melodic ideas that have come through. I mean, one thing again, like going back to Eric Johnson and his playing, and really all the guys that I've gotten into, there wasn't really so much about like technical mastery of the guitar necessarily. I mean, with Eric Johnson, when I would listen, it was like I could really feel like he was saying something with the guitar, and that's why I fell in love with it. So I try to keep that sort of thing going with my playing too. I know, I can play guitar well and all that, but I'm really trying to write music that will have an emotional effect on people and maybe help them through some difficult time in their life. Because there's been plenty of times in my life where music really helped a lot. When a loved one passed away or something like that. And so if I can write a piece of music that can really help someone through those times, that's what I like to do. So
I know, obviously, when you teach as well, I know you have the Musicarium, the guitar camp. I suppose that must be something you have to kind of maybe work with guitarists on, who they may have a lot of the chops and the technical stuff down, but then it's like it's kind of going that next stage, the expression, or the you're talking about the lyricism and bringing that out in their personality. Yeah,
exactly. Yeah, trying to have pretty good melodic ideas in your music, and just being able to express yourself with that, and then having the accompaniment behind it. But I think a lot of times it comes down to the melody to really be able to express yourself. So I try to help students with that at the camp and all that. But going back again to having these new young guys, I've had a couple of young guys open these gigs and on this tour, and man, they're like blowing me out of the water with their technique these days. It's like, holy cow, man. But one of the young guys was actually at my camp, and so when I met him up there, I was like, man, you're a great player. Maybe you could open a date, on the tour sometime this year. So his name's Blake Goodwin, if any of your listeners want to check him out. But it was a lot of fun to have him out, and we talked about melody and stuff like that out at the camp, and so we'll try to educate folks about that too with their playing.
Yeah, and I suppose I speak to a lot of teachers and players who say part of that now, because the quality of kids going to music college or just getting started it seems to be so much higher, certainly from a technical perspective, that a lot of that is due to YouTube. Because they've got access now to be able to see these people, where before, maybe your generation kind of growing up as well, you had to listen to those vinyl records, play them back and forth, and it was, and you could actually, you mentioned listening to Preston Reed and not knowing that he was using alternate tunings, where now you can go onto YouTube and there's videos there of Preston teaching that stuff as well.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, I used to have to sit and push pause on the cassette tape, after every second and a half and try and find the next note, the next chord. I did that with a lot of tunes from Don Ross and Preston and all those guys. And actually, that really helped me kind of develop my own interpretations of those tunes. So I encourage students to do that too sometimes. Try not to watch the videos or get the tablature or anything.
I suppose that, with the
guitar, use your ear.
Yeah, with the guitar, obviously that has the whole tab thing. I speak to different people who have different views on it. But on the kind of against camp, a lot of them say, well, the problem is it ends up, a lot of the guitarists, they lose some potential skills that they could be developing around listening skills, or they maybe get themselves locked into shapes a little bit more than maybe other players. So do you have any kind of thoughts about the whole tab thing? Because I imagine a lot of people get into your playing, they're maybe using tabs and stuff to get started.
Yeah, I'm fine with tablature. I think it's a helpful tool to get into a piece of music, and there's so many places to play the same note on the guitar. The tablature is pretty clear with that, so I think it's pretty handy. And but at the same time, I do encourage students to try learning things by ear sometimes, because that it can only help develop your musicality and your ear, your musical ear, and be able to hear what's going on. So but I'm fine with it. I'm not against tablature now.
So what would you say? We were talking about strengths there, but on the flip side, what would you say is your biggest weakness as a music artist and a creative person?
Well, I guess I like to my approach to the guitar. I like to use these altered tunings and sort of see what I can come up with in them. And what sort of new chord voicings are possible, and melodic ideas at the same time with those chords and things. But that sort of approach can be kind of limiting sometimes. It's sort of a different one, but the weaknesses about it are, it's not like when you're playing in standard tuning all the time, or just one tuning all the time, where you can really know the whole fretboard at every moment, at any moment, So I think my improvisational skills aren't really that hot. I mean, if I were to sit down with some other guitar players, I would just put it in standard tuning and, do my best. But I'm really not a great improviser. I think of myself more as like a composer, and I come up with these tunes and play them. I'll make variations on them during a show, sort of, either with dynamics or slight rhythmic variations and things like that. But since I'm in these bizarro tunings with almost every song, I can't really sit down and improvise something brand new at every gig. So, yeah.
And you've got all these things all these different projects and the touring things on the go all the time. But what's the one thing that you're working on just now that is exciting you the most?
Well, I did a few shows not long back, actually right before I came over to the UK with Trevor Gordon Hall and Antoine Dufour. And we do these, it was this show called Guitar Masters that I'll take out on the road sometimes, where I'll add two other guitar players, and we'll all play our own sets, and then we'll play together at the end of the night. And the trio stuff that we did with Antoine and Trevor was really cool. I mean, I was playing harp guitar, and Trevor had his kalimba guitar, and Antoine actually played electric guitar. And these trio pieces came out so cool, and we all just loved it a lot. That at some point we're going to record something together. At the moment, I'm kind of trying to work on a live album. I think we've got it put together and should have it out early next year. Then I'll probably do another solo album. But then I'd really like to do a collaborative thing with those guys and other guitarists. It was a lot of fun.
And all those guys are they're on the kind of Candyrat label as well. There's always all part of that thing.
Kind of, yeah. Actually, none of us are really on that label anymore, I guess, really. But we've all had records released on that label. But we're all kind of the modern, we're all modern acoustic guitar style guys. Yeah.
And then talk to us about a time when you worked on something, on a project, and you gave it your all, you gave it your heart and your soul, but for whatever reason, it didn't work out like you'd hoped. And more importantly, what were the lessons that you took away from that experience?
Gosh, I don't know, man. Well, I guess I had the intentions of having my own record label, and was wanting to have it sort of be a home for unusual artists of all kinds, not even just sort of this modern acoustic guitar stuff, but all kinds of instrumentalists and things like that. And I released my last EP on that. It's called Mythmaker. Was the EP, and I called the label Mythmaker Records too. But I switched management and stuff just earlier this year, and I think I had some issues with that, with trying to get this label to take off a bit and make it something. It just never really came together, unfortunately. It's not necessarily completely on the shelf and gone for good, but I have new management now, and this new live album that I'm working on, we're probably going to release under Tommy Emmanuel's label, in fact.
Yeah, he's got a new label now.
Yeah, so we're figuring it all out, but it still could be something down the road. We'll see how things all work out, but the Mythmaker Records thing it didn't really come together as I hoped it would.
Because that must be a huge undertaking, putting your own label together and working with other people, and I suppose going on the other side of the desk a little bit, where you're actually negotiating, working at the deals and setting up the distribution and all the promotion and everything else. Yeah,
it was. I originally had the idea just to start to have my own music, to release my own music on, but I thought it would be really cool to make it something bigger, and we just weren't able to bring it together. So, but maybe down the road it'll still be something. We'll see.
Yeah, I think there's loads of great examples of artists that have done this. Actually, the first one that springs to mind is David Grisman, the mandolin player, who has a great label, Acoustic Disc, and it's like super lo-fi kind of stuff that he does. But he just, it's for him, it's about just exposing his audiences to new and interesting artists that they might have not heard before as well. So it's not all just about him, really, which just sounds like kind of what you're talking about.
Yeah, that's really what I wanted it to be, and that's why I like to take some of these young guys out to open gigs and stuff too, just to give them a chance, to get in front of an audience and for the audience to hear them as well. Both the guys that open these shows are from Arkansas, and they're just kind of trying to make their way, starting up with the acoustic guitar. So to be able to help share the music, is a big pleasure of mine too.
And then talk to us about any aha ideas or light bulb moments in your life and your journey in music where you've kind of gone, maybe you had some kind of insight about a particular path that you needed to kind of go down, or you just went, oh, okay, I maybe need to make some changes here, or you kind of made some kind of realization of something.
Well, let's see. I guess. I guess one thing that I've always noticed is at my shows. I guess I do a lot of shows every year, and there can be times where it feels like I just feel like I really did horrible. Like I noticed so many little mistakes in there, and I just want to go back to the hotel and not meet anybody. But coming out and meeting the fans after the show, and they're like, "Man, you sound better every time I see you," and you're just you never really know how it's picked up by the audience, and as long as your energy is in the performance and you're giving it your best, people will just recognize that, and that means more than all the little mistakes or playing perfectly. If you're putting yourself into the performance as much as you can, and the people will feel it, and they'll let you know at the end of the night, and you'll go home, you'll go back to the hotel and feel great. It's really the best part of the whole show for me is meeting the fans afterward. I love it. I do it every night, and having that sort of intimate connection and feeling like your fans and that they support you, and they're like, I'll be here every time you come to Florida or wherever, it just feels so good, and
it seems to be, you've got a real kind of special relationship with your fans as well, partly because of the YouTube, the way that you became known. You didn't go through like the traditional kind of record label thing. You became known in a very relatively kind of new way as well. So, how does that affect the way that you've built a following, and then the way that you after you've had that, that kind of success with the YouTube stuff, actually how you kind of go on and, continue to build a career for many, many years?
Yeah, that was the trick from the beginning. It was like to see how this was all going to work out. I mean, having a lot of hits on YouTube doesn't necessarily mean you have a career. So we had to try it and just start going, hitting the road. So it wasn't long at all after the videos went viral that I started to try to turn it into a career and getting opportunities to go play. One of the first one was getting to open for Tommy Emmanuel over in the UK. I think it was 2007, and that was just a massive opportunity. And things just kept popping up, and I hooked up with a manager and an agency, and they started promoting shows and all that. And the thing, just kind of going back again, is going out there and giving a good performance. I mean, if you just go out on stage and you play your songs and you don't talk on stage and you're just kind of, I don't know, like you're playing in a coffee shop, then that's not necessarily going to bring people back. The fortunate thing, I think, for me was I did play a lot of coffee shops and things like that before the YouTube thing blew up for me. So, I mean, I had experience of playing in front of people in live situations, and so I kind of felt ready when it happened, So,
which some artists don't. Some artists just they have the YouTube hits very early, and they're then kind of struggling a little bit to work out how to monetize it or how to use it as a platform for what they do. I mean, a good friend of mine, Justin Sandico, Justin Guitar, he was. He was I mean, I can't remember how many hundreds of millions of views his videos has now, but he for him it was just about, he was teaching all the time, and it was just a new way of getting out to an audience, to teach, actually to hopefully get more students, like traditional one-on-one students, and it just kind of blew up. It didn't blow up overnight, but there was a gradual thing that just kind of happened as well. But he says, a number of people that think just because you have all these, hundreds of millions of views, or I think it's got about 1 million subscribers, that suddenly that's a huge payday. And he said that's just not how the economics of things like YouTube work.
Mm. Yeah. I don't know much about that either myself, really. I mean, that my old label that I was with, Candyrat, they're the ones that uploaded the videos, so they kind of, control all the advertising and whatever. But I mean, I certainly couldn't just make a living off of those YouTube videos. So, it's just from out touring, really, and doing this every night when I'm out playing. So.
And then what's some of the best advice that you've ever received about music or making it as a musician?
I don't know. I mean, I guess I've never really been one to ask for advice. And I don't know if anyone's ever really given me much. I don't like to bother, whenever I met other guitar players and stuff that have been successful, I was like, so what should I do next? I never did anything like that, So, I just tried to roll with this whole thing, and just have fun and be myself. I never felt like I could not be myself with this kind of music too. I mean, it's all about your integrity and being expressive on stage and stuff. So I just try to do that in my regular life. Just try and be honest and keep things real. So I never really wanted to bother anybody about that. Like, how do I take the next step?
And I mean, you've been on stage though with a lot of incredible artists. We were talking about opening at Dream Theater and Prince, and you mentioned Tommy Emmanuel as well. Have there been kind of takeaways that you've taken just from either sharing the stage with him or just kind of standing at the wings as you come off and they go on, and just kind of watching how artists like that, who are very well known as being great live artists, perform?
I guess maybe with Tommy Emmanuel, in that 2007 tour, we had a night where we were just talking quite a bit about, the guitar and doing this as a living, because he's been doing this a long time, and he just would have wanted to impress upon me that we have to do our best, and try to, as entertainers, we're trying to lift people up, and life can be difficult for anybody, and if you're a musician or an entertainer of any kind, your job really is to try to help alleviate that in some way with your music. It's not like we can all be doctors or we can all volunteer all over the world all the time. Some of us have particular skills, and for some of us it's music, and if we can use that to make the world a little bit of a better place, then that's what we need to do.
Awesome. Are there any gear or kind of online resources or mobile apps that you love and you think our listeners should check out?
let's see. I guess Truefire. They have a pretty good Truefire.com for like instructional guitar stuff. I picked up a Pierre Ben Suzanne instructional course on there about a month ago that was really great. There's so many great resources for learning guitar nowadays, and that's definitely a good one online for acoustic guitar stuff and all kinds of playing. There's a software app called Notion that I downloaded on my iPad. That's great for music notation if you want to write out music. It's been really handy. And let's see. I'm actually going to try to get some more instructional stuff myself in the coming year, with some instructional videos that'll either be on Truefire or maybe something else. We'll see what comes together. But there's a lot of great apps out there and places to learn from these days. And of course, my music camp, which you mentioned earlier too, is I did it for the first time just last year. But we're doing it again this year, and we intend to do it every year, really. And for now it's in New York, and we might try to build one out into Europe at some point. We've already talked about that a little bit, which would be really cool. But it's called Musicarium, and if anybody wants to learn a little bit more, it's at andymckeesmusicarium.com, that website.
And it's a great location. I was out there in fact, I'm going to be out there again in June of next year, and I was out there in June of in the summer of this year for Martin Taylor's guitar retreat. And it's a great location, and it's just a really, what's lovely, I think, about it, because obviously there's lots of different types of guitar camps and events, but first of all, the location's beautiful. The food is amazing.
I know.
I was completely shocked by how good the food was, because, and it's got a really, what's amazing if you haven't been to the place. So they've got a great teaching, the big barn area, and then across from it is like a roadhouse, like a little blues roadhouse in the middle of nowhere, where all the students get up and jam, and it was lovely just seeing. And I'm sure your events like this as well. The students, when they initially kind of come, everyone's a little bit, they're unsure, am I at the right level? Is it going to be too advanced or too... And then by the end of the week, you see them having made great friends with each other and the teachers, and also their confidence has grown, and they're up there and playing. It's just it's an amazing thing.
Yeah, that's exact same experience that I had there, man. And I mean, we had people coming from all over the planet, and then they made a little Facebook page at the end of it, so they could all stay in touch. They all want to come again this year, and they're uploading pictures after the event, and they're staying in touch throughout the whole year. I've been in touch with those guys, and it was just awesome. I really loved it, and I'm looking forward to doing it every year. Really, it's just great.
And if you could only recommend one record and one book to our listeners, what would they be?
Wow, that's a good one. I guess for me, off the bat, it would be Aerial Boundaries from Michael Hedges. I just think it's a real groundbreaking album, and I think someone has said it before, and I totally agree, that he was sort of the Jimi Hendrix of the acoustic guitar, as far as just being a completely revolutionary figure, and just changing everyone's perception about what it meant to play guitar. Aerial Boundaries from Michael Hedges, I think, really defines that, and sums up his music quite well too. So that would be the record. And then for the book, I would say Pale Blue Dot by Carl Sagan. He was a astronomer, but also a philosopher, really, in a lot of ways. And his book is sort of about the exploration of Mars, but more in a broader sense, just about the human race and how we all need to work together and realize that we do our best when we're working together, even though we're all have different points of view and all these things. But I mean, we've landed people on the moon because we work together. We built pyramids and all these things when we work together, and then we've always done our best. And
I think you and I were probably around about the same age. And I remember he came out with the TV series. I think was it Cosmos? I think it was a TV series, which was this. I remember watching it as a kid and like, you just suddenly realize your place in the universe, and it's great. I love Carl Sagan's work. That and Joseph Campbell. About all the myth and everything. And we watch TV movies now like Star Wars, and you see how a lot of that stuff kind of links into it as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the title of that book, it comes from, he had requested that the Magellan Explorer be turned around when it was on the edge of our solar system, and it took a picture of Earth, and it's just a tiny blue pixel, in this dark space, and it just really puts it all in perspective, really does.
So if ever you're having a really bad show and you come away from it thinking, I can't believe, I missed that one note on that particular thing, you can always think about the little blue dot and think about its significance and everything else as well.
It keeps you humble, yeah.
So let's imagine if you woke up tomorrow morning and had to start from scratch. So you've got your guitar and the knowledge that you've acquired, the chops you've acquired as a guitarist over the years, but you have no contacts. You have to, and you're not known. You have to start again. How would you restart?
Wow, that's a great question. I guess on that, I would just try and get active on social media. I guess that was really how things broke for me, was on YouTube. Of course, for me, it was early on YouTube, and there weren't already millions of guitar players on there. So I think I had a leg up in that sense, 9 years ago now. But I still think it's a viable way to get your music out there if you don't have any other, resources. Being from Topeka, Kansas, I probably would just start putting some videos on YouTube and try to get a Facebook page up and all those things, that they'll keep you connected with everybody. The other thing that really helped a lot for me too, really, and even led to me getting on Candyrat Records, which led me getting onto YouTube, was going to guitar competitions, like the International Fingerstyle Guitar Championships, which are held in Winfield, Kansas, and people come from all over the world to these things. And down there I met a lot of great guitarists and made connections. And then I went to the Canadian Guitar Festival and tried the competition there and met other great guitarists there as well, like Don Ross and Antoine Dufour and other guys. Those sort of things really helped with the actual connecting, with other people in a face-to-face sort of way, and saying things like, well, hey, I'll invite you to Colorado and we'll do some shows there. Hey, I'll invite you to Montreal. We'll do a gig here and maybe get one in Toronto, blah, blah, blah. So, those things helped a lot too. So I'd probably just do those same things again. So
it's having that mixture of online and offline, I suppose.
Yeah, making the connections. It's where it all begins. And, and if your music is resonating with people, it'll just start to perpetuate, and the people will invite you to come play and blah, blah, blah. So awesome. Hopefully it will work out.
And finally, share the best ways that listeners can connect with you, find out your touring and your new releases.
Sure. Well, I just had a brand new website put together, which I'm really happy with. I think it looks great. These folks did a real nice job. It's andymckee.com. You can check that out. I'll always post stuff there about new news and all that. I run my own Facebook page, and so I'll post stuff there on a almost daily basis. Just about what's going on. And so you can follow my Facebook page on Facebook. I've got an Instagram account, which I'm kind of new to that. I don't really post a lot of photos all that much, but maybe once a week or something there'll be something on there. Twitter, I'm on there. It's The Real McKee, and I've got a mailing list which you can sign up for through my website. That's probably the least intrusive sort of way to keep up with me. I'll mail something, maybe once every month or a month and a half even, just to let you know what's going on. There's a really great app called Bandsintown that if any of your listeners want to download that, you can follow all the musicians that you like, but you can follow me on there and you'll get notified if I'm coming to your town. So it's pretty cool for that. And I think that about covers it.
And what about any of the newer kind of video platforms? Obviously, you got your first kind of start on YouTube. Have you been trying out like the Periscopes and the Meerkats and Facebook's new video platform?
I guess I haven't that much. I haven't been too active on YouTube, but I do have a YouTube page. If your listeners want to subscribe on that, I'll occasionally, upload a video every now and then. But I guess I just feel like I haven't had that much time to do videos. But we're going to try to get more active on it. I've got a new management team and stuff, and so we've got some ideas. So that you can follow me on my YouTube page. I don't really do any other ones. I did the Periscope thing actually though when we were up at the music camp, and that was when I first heard about it. We live streamed some of the performances and things of that, but that was through their Periscope account, I guess.
Yeah, it's good fun. I mean, it'll be interesting to see how things develop with those platforms, and everyone's kind of becoming their own little media company as well. So
yeah, it's crazy. It kind of makes it tougher and tougher to be a musician.
It does.
How much social media time do I need to account for every day? But yeah, there's a lot of things these days.
Well, Andy, thank you so much for coming on the show. It's been a pleasure speaking to you and hearing about your life in music as well, and look forward to catching you on the road sometime.
Thank you, James. Man, I appreciate you having me.
Hey, James Taylor here again. And if you're interested in living a more creative life, then I'd love to invite you to join me as I share some of the most successful strategies and techniques that high-performing creatives use. I put them all together in a free downloadable ebook that you can get by going to jamestaylor.me. That's jamestaylor.me to get your free downloadable ebook on creativity.